It's Tuesday, May 4th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. The COVID-19 outbreaks at the Psychiatric Hospital and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital are under control. Word of this from Health and Wellness Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic. Last week, 15 of the 17 new COVID-19 cases involved patients and staff at the mental health institution, and 3 other persons tested positive yesterday. Minister Bostic said health authorities are working to contain the situation, and an isolation center has been established on the hospital's compound.
The situation at the psychiatric hospital internally is under some measure of control, and I say some measure because we still have to await the second test. But from the first test, we are satisfied that we've been able to do a level of containment that is necessary. And what we are working on right now, especially, is to be able to complete that process within the psychiatric hospital and also tighten up on all of the loose ends in relation to outpatients who we are contacting and trying to trace to make sure that we could wrestle this problem to the ground.
Director of the Psychiatric Hospital, David Leacock, revealed that all 82 clients and 25 staff members on the affected ward have been tested. He said the outbreak has not affected the hospital's day-to-day operations.
Prior to the actual outbreak, we had already reduced visitation to the hospital, so that's not been impacted. Operations, otherwise, as far as services, have not been severely impacted. We still continue to give care at all levels. Our outpatient clinic remains open, and our community services continue to function as normal. As we said, we have been supported by the Ministry of Health, whether it's QEH or the polyclinics or district hospitals, as far as staffing is concerned, to ensure that we can give care internally uninterrupted at this point in time.
In giving an update on the QEH, which was the source of an outbreak last month, Minister Bostic said no further positive cases had been recorded.
The situation really is a result of some positives amongst members of the QEH security staff, both private as well as public. And what we have seen is that a number of those persons have been able to return to work having tested negative on their second test. There'll be no further positives coming out of that particular situation. And we believe that as soon as we are able to complete all of the second tests for everyone associated with that, if it continues on its current trajectory, that we would be in a position to close off that case. But at the moment, things are looking good. As I said, some members have returned to work, and we hope that that will continue over the next few days.
Officials from the Ministry of Education toured several schools yesterday as some students sat down in their classrooms for face-to-face classes for the first time in months. Education Minister Cynthia Bradshaw said there had been positive feedback to Monday's reopening.
I got to interact with a number of these students who were very excited about being back into the school plant. Many of them expressed the delight in being able to see some of their colleagues, students in the school environment, being able to be face-to-face again with the teachers. Of course, some of the exam students have been a bit nervous about the upcoming examinations, and therefore we were able to reassure them that we're going to act in their best interest to ensure that we understand exactly where they're at, so that the decisions over the course of the next few days and certainly next few weeks are in their best interest.
The minister, however, disclosed that there are still challenges being experienced at some schools as a result of the volcanic ash.
Not as many as perhaps we may have had last week if we had opened, but I think the country already knows that there were going to be challenges with the ash. I think in our households we're still experiencing the residue from the ash, and the schools are going to be no different. I've seen the ancillary staff still doing and using their best efforts to be able to clean the school plant. We had some challenges at the Commonwealth School. I think the challenge there was that there's a number of the windows, which in the last few months we've been looking at in terms of repairs for security reasons. Some of the other windows on the other floors would have had some cracks, and as a consequence, even though the school was clean, a lot of the dust came back into the classroom. As a consequence, the teams are on site at the school, so I regret the inconvenience for a number of parents and the students and teachers who had to go to school today. But some of these things are not going to be avoidable, and therefore we've given the commitment that we're trying our best to get the schools ready.
President of the Democratic Labour Party, Villa Pisa, has urged the government to seriously pursue water desalination as a meaningful solution for St. Lucie residents. She made the appeal while delivering cases of potable water to residents a little over a week after expressing her desire to represent them in Parliament. Particularly high on the DLP leader's agenda is the restoration of the desalination plant at Hope St. Lucie.
We also need to have solutions, and I believe these were in train in relation to the eastern side. Hope is a little bit more northern, although Hope feeds some elements of Pie Corner. But we need to have more desal plants in Barbados. We are surrounded by water, and if it is that we have reached the point where our groundwater no longer meets our demand, then we need to be looking at our next best source, which is the salt water. Use the desal plants, get water flowing through taps, because I think that is really critical, not just in terms of how you drink and washing your clothes, but just flushing a toilet. Basic needs, basic hygiene requires water. So that is, to my mind, the most pressing issue, that we get water flowing in taps on a consistent basis.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, in Guyana, health officials recorded 4 more COVID-19 related deaths on Monday, pushing the country's death toll to 303. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana reports.
2 of the latest victims are from Region 4, while the other 2 are from Region 6 and Region 7. In the past 2 months, the country has recorded more than 100 deaths. Last month was the deadliest month, recording more than 60 deaths. The spike in new cases is also continuing. Yesterday was the first time in the past week that a daily infection rate fell below 100. The total number of active cases in the country currently stands at 1,799, with 1,700 of those persons in home isolation. There is growing concern tonight that many of those in home isolation have not been following the stay-at-home order and may be contributing to the further spread of the virus. The Ministry of Health is being called upon to toughen up on the COVID-19 measures to stem the spread of the virus.
And finally, international reports say the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is preparing to authorize the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children between the ages of 12 and 15. More from Reuters TV.
Americans as young as 12 years old will be able to get a COVID-19 shot next week. The New York Times reported Monday that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is preparing to authorize the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine for teens, citing federal officials familiar with the agency's plans. The announcement has been highly anticipated after Pfizer announced in March that their vaccine was found to be safe and effective in 12 to 15-year-olds in a clinical trial. The vaccine is already cleared in the U.S. for people aged 16 and older. The FDA said its review of expanding the vaccine's emergency use authorization is ongoing, but did not provide further details. Pfizer declined to comment on the NYT report. The report added that if the vaccine is approved for 12 to 15-year-olds, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control's Vaccine Advisory Panel will likely meet the following day to review the clinical trial data and make recommendations.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.